she really doesn't have any interest in being married and why she isn't interested in being married.
It's not even my focus, and it never has been.
There are very few men that are worth having around. And she learned that early on because her daddy was one of those men.
I've always thought a little different. The white wedding dress, I was very fearful of those things.
And say that you're trying to build a legacy or you're trying to build an empire, you can keep that. And the men are like, what?
So I've had to recalibrate my brain and not, I think, govern my life off of this fantasy or illusion that we've all been indoctrinated by.
Yeah, they didn't get her, they didn't beat her down.
That woman is not celibate. I don't care what you, her, or anybody else says, okay?
I love listening to women talking about like minding their own business. And then like seeing men's reactions to women talking about minding their own business. It's like very interesting. I just like to hear women talk about stuff like that because it's insightful, you know, and it kind of connects dots that as a man, maybe I'm not privy to. Doesn't mean that I can't relate or anything like that. It's just like it's a lot of stuff like I just don't know because I haven't gone through it. So I just like to hear women just share their experiences. Yes, now you're getting the point. Yes, men are terrible. Yes. A lot of times though, when women do that, men, they have this, they have a visceral reaction, and it's like to be like accusatory of the women, like, no, y'all don't really want that. And, or they're, like y'all lying, or whatever the case may be. And like I did a video yesterday on celibacy and how so many women are celibate and they've been celibate for a long time, like 10 years, 20 years, 8 years, 5 years. And I'm like, yeah, I can understand that. But men just cannot wrap their brains around that. They cannot wrap their brains around that. And they hate hearing women talk about how they don't want to buy into like patriarchal conditioning or traditions, like having sex with men, or being married. Right? Marriage is definitely a part of the thing. Celibacy is about marriage. But I mean, to be celibate, a part of it is to not be married, but specifically like just marriage, not having sex and not having relationships, because plenty of women aren't married, have no interest in being married, but have boyfriends, have long-term boyfriends, have sex with them and all of that stuff. So women can't talk about not putting themselves in harm's way of men. Like men can't stand that. If women are like, nah, I see the game, I see what you did there, I'm gonna avoid it. Men are they're going to come out in droves to attack those women. They're going to come out, they're going to try to gaslight those women. But nonetheless, though, I still love to hear it. I think it's interesting. And, there was a podcast recently. Maya went on to Melissa Ford's podcast and spoke about how she really doesn't have any interest in being married and why she isn't interested in being married.
For a whole year. All of these things.
No, they're
you don't
wondering
hear
how
anything else.
They're wondering how a woman as stunning as you are, that is the object of so many men's desire, and you probably have the pick of the litter, which is another thing that they assume.
Wow.
Yeah, girl, I know.
It's not even my focus, and it never has been. My mother's an independent thinker. I've witnessed a divorce, between my parents. I've witnessed all kinds of things. My father is a very attractive man. I've witnessed a lot of things, and it's also.
She basically just said her daddy is a hoe. She said her daddy was out here thotting and acting fast in these streets. And she witnessed that, and she's like, I'm good. I'm good on these men. And if you listen to what she's saying, she gave her mama credit for the way that she thinks, like her mind. And then she blamed her dad, for setting a terrible example. And men hate, like, that's another thing men don't want to hear. Y'all be up here thinking that just because a man is around his daughter or whatever, that he's going to set some great example. Most men are ass. Most men are going to set a terrible example for their daughters and their sons, right? There are very few men that are worth having around. And she learned that early on because her daddy was one of those men. That's what I'm getting from this.
Also not been a safe place in my mind as a little girl. So I've always thought a little different. the white wedding dress, I was very fearful of those things. So I looked elsewhere and probably escaped too much in my work and keep going. But also, I think being independent has forced me to show up for myself and obviously family, friends, and this operation because I have a mission and I have a vision, but it requires me to be gone. And so that's also very much fear-filled, knowing that if I have to be gone 95% of the time and my work calls for me to travel, that must be intimidating. And I also can't show up properly for my significant other. But
Do you see the difference in how she's saying, I'm going to work, right? I'm not going to be able to show up for my partner the way that they need for me and deserve for me to show up. And so her reaction to that is to not have a partner. It isn't to have a partner and force the partner to accept that. And so many men try to do that. So many men, and they don't travel, by the way. Most men don't. You're 99% of y'all, 99.999% of y'all are not Maya. You will never be as successful as her at anything, right? But a lot of men will like make excuse after excuse after excuse for not showing up for their partners. And all they do is go to work. And they'll be like, what you want? I gotta go to work. I gotta, and Maya is like, I have to travel for my job. Like that is a part of my job. I'm going to be out on the road all the time, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to be able to show up for him the way that he needs me to show up for him. Therefore, I'm going to remove myself. I'm not going to subject a person to that. I'm not going to make them choose. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to put somebody in that situation. Men are the complete fucking opposite. Men are the complete opposite. And mind you, men don't even need to not be there, but they use that as an excuse. Like, what you expect? He had to pay all the bills. He had to go to work and da 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 da. And it's like, but does that mean that that the people that you're paying the bills for or whatever, they have to suffer? Because if that's the case, I choose not to have a man around. I choose not to be with a provider. And that's how I know a lot of y'all be lying and a lot of y'all not listening to what women are saying, because women are saying, I can pay my own way. I want you here. But if you don't want to be here and you're going to blame your work for everything and say that you're trying to build a legacy or you're trying to build an empire, you can keep that. And the men are like, what? What? Yeah, bro. Nobody want to fucking be left alone.
I'm also now spiritually aligned so much where I know that I'm surrounded by love everywhere I go, right? I'm not seeking. And I know that it will be granted to me in divine time. And I'm not worried about it because my life is full of love. And it comes in so many different forms, not just one person. So I've had to recalibrate my brain and not, I think, govern my life off of this fantasy or illusion that we've all been indoctrinated by or taught by. But when you have a vision as well, and you're fighting for empowerment, and especially for your women coming up, if you plan to be a label and sign young girls, et cetera, and be their protector, it requires you to show up differently and also think differently. So it hasn't been a focal point for me. And this is what it looks like. You know, I'm very happy with my.
I'm so happy, y'all. I'm so happy the men never trapped Maya. Listening to her talk, I'm so happy. I'm so happy she stayed alone. I'm so happy she's happy alone. Melissa Ford too. I'm happy for her. I'm happy for her. I love listening to this. Is like very like refreshing. I'm like, yeah, they didn't get her. They didn't beat her down.
Myself, but that also required me to strip a lot of things that are expected of me on a specific timeline for the society that we grew up in to have. I'm talking about marriage. I'm talking about kids. And if you don't have it, something's wrong with you, right? But did I desire it? No, not with what I've witnessed and not with what I've been through.
So.
And that's what the men hate. Did I desire it? No. Y'all couldn't sell me on, we need to stick together like our grannies did. What about the old generations? And da-da-da-da. She didn't fall for that shit. Maya didn't fall for this propaganda. Maya did not fall for this propaganda. This person It's saying, imagine how much propaganda it took to convince women that this is oppressive. This is a fairy tale. This isn't what it looked like, by the way. That man was never holding that baby. He was never that doting. You know what I'm saying? Like he was never helping out with the children. Them babies would be tugging. She'd be holding the baby, mixing the damn thing at the same time. That's what the women didn't want to sign up for. But this is propaganda. Maya experienced, she had real world experience. She saw it firsthand. She saw her daddy, you know, not be a decent man to her mom. And then her mom wising up and being like, oh, I'm out. I ain't gonna do that. That's what she saw. She didn't fall for this. This is propaganda. This image is propaganda. That's why it's a cartoon. That's why it's an AI generated image. That's why it's not a real image, because this shit didn't happen. This was very rare. This was you only saw this in the magazines. You never caught genuine moments like this. It was few and far between in the home. Those men were extremely abusive. I did a video a long time ago on it was a video of like a man and a woman in the like 50s or 60s having a discussion, and she essentially was like, yeah, I want you here more. She was like, you don't need to do this and you don't need to do that. I want you here with the family. And he was just like, what do you want me to do? Like, I'm gonna do it. If you guys would have saw his face, he didn't care. He didn't care. He like was dismissive, and she was so kind. You could tell she was kind of a little scared to even say the things. She was tiptoeing around stuff. And he was just like, yeah, like, I don't care. I'm a man. I'm gonna go to work. I'm gonna come home. She was like, you don't get home until 11 or 12 at night. I was like, what? That man was cheating on her, by the way. I'm pretty sure. But that's what she was talking about. He was never in the picture. It was just her with them babies. And she was like, yeah, your children want to see you. Your children miss you. I miss you. I need you. We need you. Maya saw that. She saw the cheating. She saw all of that. And she was like, no, I'm good. This is not, women they weren't convinced. What propaganda? Who was behind the campaign to convince women that this wasn't a real thing? Because as far as I know, it's literally just women sharing their real world lived experiences that like deterred women from, seeking this life, because they knew this shit didn't exist. So who was behind the propaganda campaign? I'm curious.
Not to say I won't, and not to say I'm not open.
Absolutely. But you never, what I say to people, having never been married and also never having children, I always say, I never got the memo. So when people talk about this biological clock and it was ticking, or they had familial and societal pressure, I never felt it. Did you? And so you're saying
it's never kicked in for me yet.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't kicked in. I'm like, what is that feeling that I get with puppies? Is that going to happen with babies for me? And it hasn't kicked in yet.
I mean, my puppy's over there. She brings me so much joy.
But I have godchildren.
Mm-hmm.
I have nieces. I have nephews. I have
Maya is rich auntie all day long. And I know, just listening to them, I know for a fact men hate them. Can't take their eyes off of them. Follow them everywhere. But at the same time, those types of women specifically, like the women that are like highly coveted, which most women are highly coveted, but like the ones that are like next level highly coveted, y'all men can't stand those women. Oh my God. They hate the rich aunties. They don't want to have kids. I'll tell you what, I can relate to some extent, because though I always assumed I was going to have children, and I always knew I was going to assumed I was going to get married. I shouldn't say no. I always assumed I was going to get married. I was always interested in being married. I got to a place with kids, especially, where I was like, I'm just probably never going to have kids. Like, it wasn't a conscious decision I made. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like I hadn't had kids yet, and I thought maybe like I couldn't have kids, and whatever the case may be. I was like, I ain't had kids. If I ain't had kids by now, and a lot of that came from the fact that like a bunch of people around me were very young parents. Like my brother was a young parent, my sister was a young parent, my mother was a young parent, my aunties were young parents. So I was like, if it didn't happen by 28, You know, it didn't happen when I was 25, you know, and I was out here living. I had a whole fiance, I had a girlfriend. You know, it didn't happen for me. I probably can't even have kids. Like, I never felt like this like strong desire to have kids. You know what I'm saying? Like I never felt like that. It never hit me. Now I don't know because I had my first child at 30. You know, don't get me wrong, that's relatively young too. But I never felt like this strong desire to have kids. Like I was like, man, I gotta have kids. Like I was like, we do, we don't, we don't. And I remember telling my wife that. I was like, yeah, I mean, it's cool. If we can, then cool. You know, like there's pros and cons of having kids. It's not having children is not all pros and it ain't all cons. Not having kids is not all pros and it ain't all cons. You know what I'm saying? So I was fully like, okay, with not having kids. Love my babies now. Cool, great. Congratulations. I'm happy they're here. But like, yeah, I didn't feel like that either. Even now, like I'm still relatively, well, I don't know. I think my thing is I'm 43 now, but like, and I wouldn't dare have a child at this point. But like, even like after we had our second child, like I didn't want another child. I wasn't like, man, let's have 3 or 4 or 5. Like I remember telling my wife, let's have one. Like first, I was like, let's have the one. Let's try the one out, you know, before we think about 2. And then we had one, and that was rough. You know, my first baby. And then, you know, we ended up coming around and was like, all right, let's have another one. And we had one more. And we both were like, yeah, we're done. I'm not baby obsessed. I'm not crazy. I don't feel like my life would have been any less fulfilling without children. Yeah, I just don't feel like that. So yeah, I hear both of them, Melissa and Maya, 100%. As a man, I'm saying like I could definitely relate to that part. I just never bought into that. I was just always like, you know, like if you like the thing for me was when it came to kids, especially, I just saw so many shitty parents that I was like, not everybody needs kids. Like there should be less kids out there if you think about it, because I'm saying based on how they're treated. You know what I'm saying? Like there should be less children out here. We don't need all these kids because there's not that many good parents. And I'm not saying like there's like not that many good parents in that way. I'm saying like for as many kids as there are, there's not enough good parents out there. There are way more children than there are good parents. There are way more children than there are not abusive parents, you know, not neglectful parents. So anybody that's like, I don't want to have kids, I think that is a very selfless act, not a selfish act. That you can recognize that you can go against the grain, both socially and biologically, I'm sure. I love that. I have nothing but respect. But most of these men have nothing but contempt because they spend so much time trying to convince these women that they need to have what their grandmama, what their grannies had, and what their aunties had, and what they great grannies had. You know, that they need to sit down and have 13 fucking kids with a man and be beholden to a man and then become dependent on a man and all. Mm-mm. A lot of these women not falling for that propaganda. They got options and they got choices, and they are choosing not to have children. I got an auntie that don't have a kid. Yeah, I only have one aunt. Out of all my aunts and uncles, I only have one that doesn't have children. And I totally like, yeah, respect her for that. Like, that's perfectly okay that she don't have babies. Perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. Especially after she saw what happened with my grandma, her mama. Totally understand that. And these are the types of men that I was talking about, right? Like when women say that they're celibate, when women say that they're not interested in marriage, they're not interested in relationships, you know, so on and so forth. These are the types of men that I'm talking about. Like they hate the Mayas, they hate the Melissa Fords, they hate the like the woman I did a video on yesterday. Like these are the men. They can't stand these women.
Bro, please spare me of this bullshit you're talking about, okay? That woman is not celibate. I don't care what you, her, or anybody else says, okay? So let me get this straight. You got an attractive woman, right, who's in her mid-30s and who's seemingly heterosexual, right? You're telling me she's celibate? Here's what.
Yeah. Why is that unbelievable? See, because these dudes, they cannot wrap their brains around a woman, they keep projecting. It's them. They're like, there's no way that if I could get as much action as Dana Dane could, or Maya could, or Melissa Ford could, whatever, that I would choose to not, you know what I'm saying? I would choose to abstain from that. There's no fucking way. It's like those street interview videos where they ask the men, like, what would you do if you could be a woman for 24 hours? And they all said, I'll fuck 19 men. Like, it was so great. It was like, oh, I would go to the club, I would get free drinks, and I would sleep with every man that I met. I'm like, what? No, this ain't coming from the body count men, right? Not the high body, not the low body count men. Ain't that some shit? But anyways, it's because you can't wrap your brain around being celibate. You have no discipline. You have no discipline whatsoever. You don't know what it feels like to actually work on yourself, to be content. You don't know what that feels like. You only get value in how many women you sleep with, or you getting pussy, or whatever the case may be. That's like, you don't have any value yourself. You have no self-worth. That's why you can't wrap your brain around a person that's like, no, I'm good. I'm a whole human being on my own. I don't need anybody else. Y'all hate these women, dude. These dudes can't stand. So they come out, they literally come on the internet and just, no, I don't believe them. She's not celibate. Nigga, do you live in her room? Like, are you under her bed, creep?
That's what I know. Women that look like her, conduct themselves like her, and who scream they're celibate, they're only celibates because their previous dealings with men have all been fucked up.
Exactly. What do you think celibacy is rooted in, bro? The fact that you think this is the yes. Now you're getting the point. Yes, men are terrible. Yes, most celibacy is directly connected to the behaviors of men. Yes. It's almost like you ran head first into the fucking point.
Have all been fucked up. I guarantee you, however old she is, she probably has that same amount of bodies on her belt. And the reason how I know this is because she's always talking about how men don't meet her standards. Nobody out there can meet her standards. You have to be literally Jesus to date this woman.
I've never heard her say you have to literally be Jesus to date her. She said that she likes attractive men that are nice and kind and make money. I'm pretty sure, like, I watched the video where she was saying, like, the reason why she's single is because all the men she like are in relationships. and because no woman is leaving a good man. Right. And you know what I'm saying? Like, that's basically what she was saying. She was like, all the desirable men are in relationships. Like, at her age, because she's 38. If she was 28, if she was 25, that would be different. She's 38. She's saying all the men I like that are around my age are in relationships, because ain't no woman leaving a good man. That's all she was saying. And then what she was saying was a good man was like a man that can provide, a kind man, a nice man, a generous man, a non-cheater, a non-liar, like the most basic man, like when you think about it. But no, those men are hard to find. Those men are not single.
And that right there was the first sign that I knew, yeah, she's not what she claims she is. She's not what she claims she is. And like I said, everything that's in the dark always comes to light. It always comes to light. I promise you that. I'm going to leave it at this. No, she's not celibate. And number two, in my history, or in my lifetime, right, in my experience, women like that have at least 4 or 5 plan Bs in their past. So get the fuck out my face with that nonsense.
So what? I don't know if you guys understand what celibacy is. Celibacy isn't, I've been an angel my whole life. I've never done anything. I've never made any mistakes. I've never been in a shitty relationship. Celibacy, everything you're describing would be a reason for a woman to be celibate, right? Shitty men, 4 or 5 plan Bs, 2 abortions, whatever, like all that. Yeah, that a woman, if she just gets tired of dealing with that shit and she goes, fuck it, y'all got it, you win, I'm good, I'm checking out. That's a problem? Why would, I said this yesterday, it just, that women being celibate proves how logical women are. And the fact that men like him hate women and try to like disparage those women proves how illogical men are. Because if a woman is having terrible experience after terrible experience with a group of people, and then she chooses to abstain from being in relationships with those group of people, that's logical. If you continue to be in those relationships and subject yourself to that treatment, that's not logical. I don't think you guys understand that women being in relationships with men is actually illogical. And I have to be honest. I know where it comes from, though. Women have to buy into hope. They have to have faith. They have to, you know what I'm saying? It has to be love involved. Emotions have to be involved. Biological clocks have to be ticking, whatever the case may be. Societal pressures have to be involved. But if women sat back objectively and examined relationships with men, they would not be in relationships with men. There are very few men that are worth being in relationships with. Very few. Very small percentage of men. So by that logic, it wouldn't even make sense to test it, because you won't know. You will never find out. You will never know until you get into a relationship with a man and let the whole relationship play out. But in that time, how many times will she have to be hurt? Because vetting isn't a real thing. She can never know until she knows. She can never know until she's in it. That's what I'm saying. So y'all need to shut the fuck up. Because you guys are pushing, like, the more you shame these women, you guys are pushing women to be more celibate. I'm not even saying, like, I don't care. Let the women be celibate. I don't care. I'm saying, though, if your goal is to get women to not be celibate and to be married and to get into relationships with y'all, be quiet. You're proving their point. You just said the quiet part out loud, man. Jesus Christ.